Hello, it's Sunday and I cannot resist reading this very short chapter out of Winged Pharaoh by Joan Grant. She wrote this farm memory book. It was her first one, published 1937, and this is such a lovely chapter. I just saw the title of it and I thought, let me just read this quickly. This is Winged Pharaoh, chapter 10, The Healer with Herbs. When my father became Pharaoh, 12 years before the death of the great Menace, there was little knowledge in Calm of dealing with herbs. But under his guidance, much old knowledge was remembered, and much that was new was added to the store. The people of the land of gold had much of the old knowledge of herbs, and many plants that were strange to our country were brought back from there by my father. Travellers from distant lands would bring him rare plants, for which he often gave 3 times their weight in gold. Although he loved flowers and trees, in the private garden that adjoined his own apartments, there were only those plants that had healing virtue to men or animals. The leaves of some of them were dried and boiled in water, and the liquid would cool fevers. Some had roots that were pounded into dust, and on a tongue would cure a disordered bowel. And there were some from which ointments were made to cure sores, or to heal the angry flesh of round wounds. The bark of a low shrub with yellow flowers was made into a lotion for the eyes. There were tall poppies with crinkled, silky leaves, from whose seeds a draught was made, which drowsily soothed pain, and a rare plant with a fleshy stalk, whose juice on linen, bandaged round the eyes, would take away the yellow crust that destroys sight. Once my father said to me, it was after the stele had been erected which told of the building of the palace, "If far in the future men shall think of me, I hope that I shall be remembered not as a warrior or as a builder, but as a man who healed with herbs, for it is greater to make a blind man see the stars again than to build mightily in stone." He would often tell us that plants had much to teach us. Mankind is often foolish. Warriors throw down the sword to drive the plough, and fields remain unstilled because the ploughman tries to paint frescoes on the cowshed wall, and the draftsman throws away his reed wishing to be the bearer of a sword. But plants are wiser, for they in their several ways gain each experience in its turn. The violet does not cringe under its leaves because it has no thorns upon its stalk. The verbena does not try to flower like the convolvulus, but it is content to yield refreshing scent from the rough greenness of its simple leaves. One day we found father kneeling beside one of his plants. Its leaves were limp and the flower buds dropped to the ground. He was pointing his finger at it, as if he were healing a sick person. And when he had finished, we asked him what he was doing, and he told us this plant was dying for lack of life. Although the bodies of men and of animals collect new life when they are empty and the spirit has left them in sleep, plants cannot sleep or gather new life for themselves. And so Ptah made for each plant a little spirit to look after it, which does for the plant what our Ka does for our body. These little plant spirits take different forms, but all of them spin very fast round and round, faster than you can roll a top with a cord. And he reminded us of the time we had seen a curious gust of wind, which had drawn up sand and little bits of stick, sucking them towards itself. So does a plant spirit collect life, with which to feed the plant under its protection. The spirit of this plant was weak and could not spin, so being a healer priest I gathered life, the life of Ptah, and, by my will, drove it to where my finger pointed. Now the little plant spirit is once more strong enough to do its work. This was chapter 10. Chapter 11 is entitled Seership, but I shall have a break because it's Sunday. Bye!